Hey everyone, Mike here. Have you ever wanted to try out Bazzite on different computers without the hassle of a full install every single time? Or maybe you just want a super portable Linux drive that you can take anywhere. Today I'm going to show you how to create a portable Bazzite installation on an external SSD drive. Before we dive in, know that while we're using Bazzite today, this exact method works for creating a portable installation of almost any other Linux distribution as well. Now here's what you'll need for this project. A fast USB 3 or greater flash drive, an external SSD or NVMe drive enclosure. These will usually cost between $5 and $20. An internal SSD or NVMe drive. Typically you'd want 250 gigs or greater, but this is highly dependent on the games that you want to test. Let's dive in. First, let's head over to the Bazzite website, bazzite.gg, and download the Bazzite image. I'm going to go with desktop, AMD, KDE, and I don't want gaming mode for this testing machine. You pick the options that you want to test on all of your hardware. Let's download the image. Next, we're going to use Rufus for creating our USB drive. You can use Ventoy if you prefer. Let's download Rufus. Now that our downloads are complete, let's insert our USB flash drive and use Rufus for making our bootable Bazzite installer. Open Rufus, select the correct USB drive, click on Select to pick our ISO, change the partition schema to GPT so we don't accidentally install Bazzite using CSM Legacy Boot. All the other settings are fine. Click on Start. Click on OK. Note that everything on the USB drive will be lost in this process. This will take a couple of minutes, so I'm going to jump ahead. Now let's reboot and enter the BIOS. Now that we're in the BIOS, you should be able to leave Secure Boot on. For this part, since Secure Boot keys for Fedora are usually included in most BIOS, but we'll still turn off Fast Boot, otherwise the BIOS might not pick up our USB flash drive. However, if you do run into issues booting your USB flash drive, then turn off Secure Boot. Let's select our drive with Bazzite on it and select the option to install Bazzite. Also, please make sure that your external USB SSD drive is plugged in. Now we wait for a moment for the installer to start up. Now for the installation. This part is critical. Select installation destination, and now you need to be 100% sure that you don't select your Windows drive and you select your external SSD drive. For storage configuration, leave it as automatic, and let's tick free up space by removing or shrinking existing partitions. Don't worry, this will not impact your Windows install, it will only impact the selected drive. Now select Done, select Delete All, click on Claim Space. Next, you typically want to create a user because that is much more secure. However, this is just a test installation, so I'm going to skip this step. Note that the user will be Bazzite and the password will also be Bazzite, all lowercase. Click on Begin Installation and let's wait for the install to complete. If you're finding this guide helpful so far, please consider hitting that like button. If you want more practical Bazzite tutorials, don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to skip ahead for this section. The install is complete. That took about 15 minutes. Let's select Reboot System. Next up, we should get a blue mock screen. Select Enroll Mock, Continue, Yes. Now type Universal Blue and hit Enter. Note that nothing will display while you type the passphrase to enroll the key. Now that you've enrolled the key, select Reboot. Now let's boot up Bazzite. The first time it runs, we'll get this updating KARGs. Please wait, this may take a while screen. This takes about 5 to 10 minutes to complete, but you will only get it one time. Now we log in. Remember the username is Bazzite and the password are both Bazzite, lowercase. Next, we're gonna just set up Steam, and I'm going to speed up this section because I'm sure you've done this plenty of times. Now that we are fully set up, you can shut down. Once the machine is shut down, disconnect the USB SSD drive and you can plug it into any computer. Here are just a few tips and tricks. When you plug in your external Bazzite SSD drive into a new machine, you may need to turn off fast boot for the BIOS to pick up the new drive. Also, most BIOSes have the option to change the default boot order. So while I'm testing distros, I like to set USB devices as the first boot device. Just plug in the USB drive when you want to test Bazzite and unplug the USB drive when you want to run Windows. If you plug the drive into another machine, you might get the error bad shim signature, you need to load the kernel first. If you get this error, you'll need to turn off secure boot to get past this and then enroll the Bazzite key before you can turn secure boot back on again. I have a video guide in the top right corner for this. If you really like Bazzite, you don't need to install it again. You can just take your SSD drive out of the enclosure, insert it into your desktop or laptop, and boot it as if it was always an internal drive. You can do the reverse too. You can use an internal SSD drive with Bazzite already installed on it, throw it into the enclosure, and you can run it on any other machine that you want to test Bazzite on. Just a note that if you get random operating system freezes, you may have bought a USB enclosure with a faulty or very sensitive cable. Also, it's preferable not to plug the external SSD drive into a USB hub or have other very power-hungry USB devices plugged in at the same time. If the BIOS isn't letting you boot the external SSD drive, most BIOSes have the option to boot from file. Some BIOSes hide the boot from file option, so you'll need to look it up. We select the option to boot from file, select the drive. We can see that this is the correct one because it has USB in the name. Then select EFI, select Fedora, then select grubx64.efi. This will force the grub menu to show up and we can boot Bazzite. Weirdly, booting directly from the external SSD drive will tend to work after doing this. And there you have it. By following these steps, you've successfully created a portable Bazzite installation on an external SSD drive. Now you can test drive Bazzite on any machine that you own without committing to a full install. When you're ready to make Bazzite your daily driver, you can simply plug this drive in internally and pick up right where you left off. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried Bazzite. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.